Hello YouTube land. I'm getting used to my new camera here on the computer, so if it's shaky or anything like that, that's just me kicking my little table here. Getting used to this camera, it's kind of weird. This next video is about my experiences with demons. I was asked about my experiences with demons. That's kind of a very broad topic. I started working with the demonic many years ago. Probably 1984 were my first forays into magic and such. I really started getting serious about demons though probably in 85 or 86. I mean, like, seriously, like, regularly working with demons. So I've had quite a few experiences. It's my personal contention that if you do work with demons long enough, you are going to have some sort of experience. You are going to witness a physical manifestation at some point. You'd almost have to be completely psychically inept to not have some sort of experience after working with the demonic for many years. It's kind of interesting because my very first experience with the demonic entity actually happened when I was about 6 years old. I was woken from a dead sleep to a black figure coming out of the wood grain of my closet, and it was cloaked and it stood next to my bed, and then it went off into the hallway and I followed it, and it went down the hallway and into the wood grain of the door at the back of the hallway, and I never saw it again. Some people have said, oh, that's the infamous shadow people, yada yada yada. I'm not so sure about that. I really do believe it was almost some sort of omen, and, you know, not everyone's going to believe me, but, you know, ultimately it was my experience. I've validated it for myself. I don't need anyone else to validate it. So I really don't care if anyone believes me or not, but I don't want to say I was chosen, because I think anyone who follows our path was called to it for some reason. So that was probably my very first experience. My second experience with the demonic actually happened when I was 8 years old, and I was beginning to question my Jack Christian upbringing. I call it Jack Christian because some weekends I'd go to Catholic church with my grandmother, and occasionally my sister and I would be enrolled in vacation Bible school with my evangelical aunt and my cousins. So it's kind of like we were non-practicing Christian in my household. So my second experience with the demonic was when I was questioning the existence of God, and because I had just done an experiment where I was dancing in the rain, or dancing around outside trying to make it rain, and it rained. It was actually kind of some stupid child ritual thing, but it had me believing that, ooh, I can do magic and make it rain. So one night I prayed to God, nothing happened, because I was missing some things. I think it was like a book and like a plastic horse or something, and they were missing, and I had torn apart my entire bedroom to find them. Couldn't find them. I'd searched the entire house. I had searched the entire outside. So that night I said, you know what, hell with it. I'm going to pray to Satan and see what happens. So I did. I actually prayed to Satan at 8 years old. And the next morning I woke up and I had this compulsion to go over to the bottom drawer of my dresser and look inside it. And I opened it up, and the drawer that had been like a complete disaster from the day before, because I had torn it apart looking for these things, was completely cleaned up, and sitting right on top was the book that I was missing and the plastic horse. And I was like, holy shit. Can I say shit on YouTube? I think I can. So I was kind of freaked out about that. I was like, yeah, okay, there might be something to this. So I kind of put it out of my mind, and I didn't go there. And then when I started getting interested in the occult, divination and necromancy, mostly because of all of my experiences with seeing the spirits of dead things growing up, and, you know, the family rumors that we were a family of clairvoyants and mediums, I started studying such things, and then I started having more experiences after I actually started practicing magic. So it just kind of spiraled from there. My dedication actually produced a physical manifestation. That does not happen with everybody. But it did with me so much that I actually thought someone had broken into my house, and the cops were called and everything was fine, but there was nobody to be seen, and I was not dreaming. Trust me, I am a very skeptical person myself. I do tend to try to look at all possible causes. As a matter of fact, I have one experience that I thought was a demonic experience that I later discounted as a frontal lobe seizure because it had all of the symptoms of such. So I actually am a very scientific person, believe it or not. And a lot of people are like, oh, well, how can you believe in science and something so crazy as the demonic? Well, I believe in it because I've been there and I've seen it. And quite honestly, my beliefs do not conflict with science. So I don't think spirituality and science have to conflict. I think you can be very scientifically minded. Now, granted, okay, maybe I'm not always as immediately skeptical of every experience I have, but I do tend to think them through and then question my experiences. And I think that's very healthy and important for everybody to do, is question and analyze all of your experiences, write them down, and then put them away, and then go back to them at a later date. This is why the importance of the journal for anyone practicing magic or any type of spiritual practice, probably a really good idea, because you can kind of look back and not only see what you've learned, but also see how far you've come and how much you've changed and grown. So I think that's really important. Not to mention, it will help you remember things as you go, because sometimes you forget things, forget, one thing that happened during such and such ritual. But I have had, I've also experienced both Remi-Kerti, which is being given a personal symbol of power by the demonic. And that's basically when the symbol somehow appears on either a ritual tool, a piece of parchment, on the altar. I mean, it can happen a number of ways. And there are other things. I mean, I've been able to channel the demonic. Done that quite a bit, actually. I used to actually do a lot of ghost hunting and such. I used my abilities for that sort of thing to do ghost hunting. I stopped doing it because it was a bit disarming for me. It kind of freaked me out. I actually closed off my abilities for a while there because they were just too intense for me to deal with. That particular experience, I was walking through an old house that I was investigating, and there were signs of Christian devil worship in this house. And it wasn't even outward signs. I just felt it when I walked in. And sure enough, the guy leads me down into this basement where there's, inverse pentagrams and such all over the walls. And then up to this corridor of rooms that were numbered 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6, 6, 6, 7. So I mean, and I had no prior knowledge to any of this beforehand. It was also my very first experience with an open portal, which is very disarming and uncomfortable if you've never done it. That's why I kind of laugh when people are like, oh yeah, I saw it, physical manifestation, yada yada. Oh, it was no big deal. Really, most people who've really had experiences like that don't think it's not a big deal. It's very it's not amusing, and it can be very terrifying. Only because you don't understand it. I mean, once you finally figure out what it is and what you're looking at, it's a lot easier to understand. But that's kind of how that works. I'm running out of time. Maybe I should save that for another video.